Hello, this is Neil, and today we are in the underground of New York. More precisely, in its subway. It was the year 1898.
New York had just become a single city. Manhattan, Brooklyn, the Bronx, and Queens no longer existed as separate worlds. They had merged into one vast, noisy, restless whole. The city was growing faster than it could understand itself. The streets were overcrowded. Movement slowed. People spent hours traveling distances that had once taken minutes. New York was not just loud, it was suffocating. I stood on Manhattan and watched horses nervously strike the pavement with their hooves. Streetcars rang their bells but barely moved. Carriages became trapped in an endless flow of people. The air was heavy, soaked with coal smoke and frustration. The surface of the city could no longer cope, and more often, a question began to surface, one that was frightening in itself. If New York had nowhere left to grow above ground, where would it go next? The answer was beneath our feet, but daring to choose it was terrifying. Today, we think of the subway as something natural, but at the end of the 19th century, the idea of willingly going underground caused real anxiety. People feared collapses. They feared water. They feared darkness. They feared the city might simply collapse on top of them. And yet, the idea of an underground railway did not appear overnight. Almost 30 years earlier, in the year 1869, one man decided to test the impossible. His name was Alfred Ely Beach. He was an inventor, someone who cared more about proving that something could be done than about waiting for universal approval. Beneath Broadway, almost in secret, he built a short pneumatic tunnel. The carriage moved by air pressure alone. People entered with suspicion and stepped out in amazement. It worked. You could travel underground. Beach revealed the future, but the city was not ready to accept it. Politicians were afraid. Property owners resisted. His project remained a demonstration of an idea that had arrived too early. The years passed. New York continued to grow. The problems on the surface grew louder. And by the end of the 19th century, it became clear postponement was no longer an option. The city would either go underground or drown in its own movement. That was when another figure stepped forward, an engineer, not a dreamer. His name was William Barclay Parsons. He viewed the city as a system. He understood that the subway could not be an experiment. It had to be a working network capable of moving millions of people every single day. Under his leadership, and with the involvement of the Interborough Rapid Transit Company, work began on the first true underground line. This was no trick and no secret tunnel. It was a contract with the city. Expensive, dangerous, and irreversible. Streets were torn open. Entire blocks turned into trenches. Shops lost customers. Buildings trembled. Newspapers wrote of chaos. But beneath that disorder, a new artery of the city was being born. Workers dug by hand with shovels, pickaxes, and dynamite. Underground, it was damp, dark, and confined. A single mistake could cost a life. People feared the tunnels would flood, that the walls would not hold, that a train underground would become a trap. But fear could no longer outweigh necessity. And in the year 1904, the subway finally opened. I was among the first passengers. I remember the tension clearly. People descended cautiously, as if breaking some ancient rule. When the train began to move, there was no panic, no chaos. There was a steady, confident rhythm. Underground, the city finally began to move the way it needed to. The subway changed New York instantly. Distances collapsed. Neighborhoods drew closer. The city became truly unified. Underground, the differences that felt insurmountable above ground began to disappear. Today, more than a century later, the results of that decision are staggering in scale. The New York City subway consists of 36 lines and approximately 472 stations. Every day, around 3.5 million passengers descend underground, as if an entire metropolis moves beneath the city daily. The total length of its tracks exceeds 1,000 kilometers, a distance comparable to traveling from New York to Chicago. During peak hours, trains arrive approximately every 5 minutes, and the system operates around the clock, without weekends or holidays. This is not just transportation. It is the nervous system of the city, its hidden heart, its constant motion. Sometimes I stand on a platform and listen as a train approaches from somewhere far away. That sound travels through walls and through time. It reminds me that beneath the feet of millions, another New York exists, dark, loud, and essential. The subway was born from fear and necessity, from ideas that arrived too early, from people who dared to dig beneath a city without knowing what it would one day become. And every time a train disappears into a tunnel, I think about this. Sometimes, in order to move forward, a city must first be willing to go down.
This was Neil. And if you'd like to continue traveling through time with me, subscribe to the channel.
So you don't miss our next journey. I promise, it will be interesting.